Today, I'm going to be busting some of the biggest myths about user testing. I've got 10 ready to go, and if you stay around to the end, there's going to be a bonus one. So here we go, kicking off with number 1. User testing is just for usability studies. Maybe about 15 years ago, you could have said user testing was just for usability studies, but today it does so much more. Usability studies are just one type of qualitative test you can do with user testing. You can do preference testing and ethnographies, and you can do card sorting and tree testing, and you can do surveys, and you can do interaction tests at scale to generate a QX score. So whether or not you actually want qualitative think out loud feedback from something like a usability study, or you need something statistically significant running to hundreds, if not thousands of participants, you can get both of those, or all of those, I should say, with user testing. It doesn't matter the size, the scope, or the thing that you need to test. If you can think it, you can test it with user testing. User testing is only for UX researchers. No, user testing is for everyone. Whether you're a designer, a developer, a marketer, a product manager, you can use user testing. Heck, even leaders can use it, and we don't usually let them use anything. Everybody can use user testing because it's just that easy to simply ask questions of the people you want to hear from. And if you don't know how to ask questions, user testing has an amazing template gallery that you can use to pick exactly the type of test you want to run, and you can do that in either an editable fashion, so you can just mock up and make the template your own, or you can use a fill-in-the-blanks quick answer so that it is exactly the way a user testing UX researcher would do it, but you're running it yourself. And if you're a leader or you're an administrator of a system and you're worried about people who don't know how to run tests doing testing, or you just want to give it that little bit of a, check the box and make sure you've looked at it, you can use an approval flow to ensure that every test that goes out to customers or participants is exactly the way you want. So you absolutely do not need to be a UX researcher to use user testing. And just point of fact, when I used user testing as a customer, I was a product manager, so I was not actually a UX researcher. You can only test websites and apps. Wrong. You can actually test anything with user testing. So whether it's a website or an app or a prototype, yes, absolutely, those are very easy to test when you're looking at a screen and you're on the screen. So you can test those things easily. That's the bread and butter of user testing. But you can test anything else. Physical spaces. You can test things like restaurants and stores. You can test people's in-home experiences. You can test things like unboxings and trade shows. You can test virtually anything. When you're using user testing's contributor network, you're probably going to be testing something that you can do very easily on the fly, like a website prototype or an app. But you can also use the contributor network to recruit people and have them go out and give you feedback somewhere else, like a car dealership or maybe their wireless carrier store. You can even use things like a QR code on a pedestal to get feedback in the moment anywhere from an employee in an employee space like the cafeteria or the break room, or hey, what's it like to come into our lobby. You can do all those things with user testing, digital, physical, it doesn't matter. And you can even switch between the two. You can have somebody showing you something through the smartphone camera, and then it can switch over to the actual smartphone, to an app, to show you how the real world and the virtual world are interacting. Did I mention you can also test virtual reality spaces with user testing? Well, you absolutely can. So I consider that myth busted. User testing slows things down. Absolutely not. User testing speeds things up. We tend to forget how much rework is put into all of our processes when we start out just based on our gut, when we don't exactly have our real customer feedback driving the actions we're taking. So we might actually build out an entire application and then we put it into production, or we finally take it to a lab and we let people look at the pseudo-finished product and we find out there's all kinds of things that don't work the way the customer expected them to or wants them to. Yeah, they might work according to specifications, but that's the difference between QA work, quality assurance testing, and user acceptance testing. QA means, hey, does this work as designed, as specified, or as the developer interpreted the specifications? Versus UAT, which is, does it work as intended, the spirit of what we're trying to build? And taking it to that next step, does the customer actually care? Do they like it? So if you are doing customer research all the way at the beginning with user testing, you are going to iterate very quickly and make sure that your overall timeline is as short as possible while delivering the highest quality products. And let's not forget that most user testing studies, 85% or so, are done in 3 hours or less. So personally, if I'm ever running user testing study and it's not almost done in an hour, I get freaked out that something must be wrong with my screeners. I ran a study just the other day, 57 minutes. A study last week, about 58 minutes. So I love when my studies come in under an hour, but it absolutely does not slow things down to run studies in user testing. User testing only works for B2C companies. This is just not true. When you think about it, most people who are in the user testing contributor network have some kind of job. Yes, some people are unemployed and they do user testing feedback as a side hustle, but a lot of people are actually employed, which means you can ask them about their jobs. It's very easy to go out and say, hey, do you sign contracts for this? Or are you a buyer in a restaurant? Do you manage company partnerships? These kinds of things are very easy to do in user testing. You just specify using the screeners to get to exactly the person you need. And if you are working in a very, 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 very niche B2B environment where you have to get specific feedback from specific individuals, you can just use the invite network and generate a test that gives you a link that then you can distribute to the actual partners, people, customers that you have to get real feedback in real time. And let's not forget that you can always do a live intercept to actually capture those people when they're on your website or mobile app, to actually get real world feedback from your actual customer in the moments that they're trying to interact with you and do business with you. So absolutely, user testing can be used for B2B experiences. All right, this is one of my most despised myths in user testing lore. It is that user testing cannot do diary studies. You absolutely can run diary studies in user testing. I've created videos showing you how to do it, but let's just bust that myth once and for all. A diary study is merely a series of studies over time, sometimes called a longitudinal study, that use the same participants. That way you can check on the quality of an experience or the particular user or customer's ability to interact with you over time. An example might be they are interested in purchasing a product, then they actually purchase the product, then they unbox the product and see it for the first time. Maybe they set it up. A week later, you actually check in to see how well are they using the product, and maybe another week after that, you check to see has their skill level increased beyond what they were initially doing. So maybe 5 studies, 6 studies over 2 weeks. It is very, very easy to do this in user testing with the ability to recruit the exact people that you need. You can actually get to those people, or as I said, throw a QR code in a product that you're shipping them and they can open it and scan the QR code in the unboxing process. Once you run that first test, you're going to take all those participants, you're going to save them into a favorite group, maybe named after the diary study itself. And then at each and every subsequent study, you're just going to re-recruit the people that you already favorited for the diary study. They've agreed to be in it. It's super easy, and you can have all those results and studies organized into a folder or a workspace dedicated to that diary study. It is super easy to do. User testing is not a one-and-done platform when it comes to talking to contributors and participants and panelists, so you can absolutely run a diary study in user testing. All right, I'm going to say we're putting that one to bed. You can do it. If you can't figure it out, remember, I've got another video here on the channel, how to run a diary study on user testing with all the step-by-step instructions that I just shared in that myth busting. All participants are random people with no expertise. This is just not true. You can recruit exactly the niche of people that you need with the exact skill set you need in user testing. So that is as opposed to being expert testers and expert feedback givers. There are no professional testers in user testing. It is a matter of getting the people that you want using screeners and the correct audience build to get the level of expertise you need. So if you need someone who is an expert on cloud administration with a particular piece of software that knows how to do gold standard imaging, you can do that. If you want to check out a job description for a new cybersecurity expert specifically for vehicles, you can actually go out and find cybersecurity experts to look at that job description and tell you, hey, is vehicle expertise different than regular cybersecurity? You can get exactly the people with the expertise that you need in user testing. We've already touched on this one, but you can't test with your own customers. You absolutely can test with your own customers. If you've been skipping around, you might have missed me say it before, but user testing does have something called the invite network that you can use for whether it's unmoderated, moderated, think out loud, surveys, interaction tests. You can recruit your own people for any kind of test you want, and you can even do in live intercepts to get people directly in the moment they're trying to interact with you, very much like you might personally have seen some kind of a survey or a feedback prompt come up in a window on a website that you're looking at. It says, hey, we'd like to get your feedback. You can do the exact same thing with user testing. You can also, as I said, using the invite network, get a link. You can distribute it via email. You can put it in a monthly bill. You can send it out on social media. You can get exactly the feedback you need. And sometimes when it's a niche audience, you can go out and find people that are talking about your business in message boards, things like that. But when it comes to your own customers, you can include that link in any normal method that you communicate with them. And even, like I said, the new novel way of creating something like a QR code and sticking it in every product you deliver so that you've got this feedback request going out to everyone who makes a purchase from you. Or in a physical space, just throw a QR code on a pedestal and let people know, hey, if you want to give feedback on this particular space, on my kiosk, my restaurant, the cleanliness, etc., you can just have that QR code. They scan it, and they'll be able to start giving you feedback. This is one of my favorite myths to bust. User testing videos are long and tedious to analyze. No way. User testing has implemented so many ways to speed up the time to get to actionable insights with the platform that it actually boggles the mind. So first, you have the video playback, which comes with full sentiment analysis on a transcript. Along the video, along the bottom, you see where each and every task is. So if you want to hone in on a particular task, you can do so. You can filter those sentiments to say, hey, I only want to see the bits of confusion or aversion. Or hey, did anyone make a suggestion in this video? You can see those things immediately when you go to the video playback, and you can very quickly highlight little elements from the transcript, make little clips that you can share directly, or you can turn those into highlight reels. Then you actually have the metrics tab where all the visual output is from all of the tasks in your test plan. Things like your survey style questions, your Likert scales, your multiple choice questions. But when it comes to your actual tasks, analyzing an interactive path flow, seeing the journey, finding the outliers, seeing the moments of negative and positive sentiment in that journey are second to none and will speed you up beyond belief when it comes to things like mobile apps, verbal questions, physical spaces. The verbal question and the keyword map, which is a sentiment-driven word cloud, will absolutely give you an at-a-glance impression of how people responded to the task or question you gave them. Did they hate it? Did they like it? Or was it somewhere in between? And let's not forget the AI task summaries that are right above your interactive path flow and right above your keyword map, which leads into Insights Discovery, which is the new Insights Hub's AI chat prompt that you can literally use to query your research. It is a virtual research assistant on hand that you can ask anything that might have come up in a study, whether you actually noticed it in a video or not. You can query it there and see what people are saying. So I truly believe that with user testing, you can get to actionable insights in 99% less time than traditional research methods. That is my favorite myth to bust, and I consider that one busted. All insights in user testing are qualitative and not data-driven, so that means they're subjective and not objective. To quote Dwight Schrute, false. With user testing, you absolutely can start with qualitative, individual feedback, think out loud, people's opinions, talking through what they like and dislike about things. But then you balance that out with quantitative feedback through a survey, an interaction test, and the QX score. So you absolutely don't base decisions just on qualitative feedback. You balance it with quantitative feedback in the brand new surveys and brand new interaction tests, the ability to use the QX score, the ability to use the NPS score, and bring it all together to have true data that complements your analytics, complements your offline data, complements your third-party large-scale research that maybe you paid way more than you pay for user testing for. And now you have a full picture that actually brings it all together so you can make a quality decision. And if you're using something like a quantum metric, you have links. You have links between the platforms, so you can actually balance and go right from user testing's qualitative feedback into your quantitative data to see, hey, this came up in a user testing study. Let me quantify that over in quantum metrics. So you have ways in user testing to get fully data-driven decision-making, actionable insights with the platform. So that is the end of the top 10 myths busted. But now we're going to go into a bonus one, and this is one that I think comes up very often. You need a huge budget to test with user testing. That is not true. There are people that are running just a few tests a month, all the way up to people that are running a few tests a day. And of course, the more testing you do, the higher the budget you need to have is, but it is totally customizable. And your sales reps and solution consultants and customer success managers can actually work with you to figure out what you need so that they offer you the exact package that works for you. You do not need a huge budget. I'm not going to quote actual numbers here because I'm not a salesperson for user testing. It all comes down to what it is that you want to do. So if you're going to engage user testing and you haven't done so before because you think or you thought that you needed to have this huge budget, go ahead and talk to them. The thing that I would suggest is that you just have an idea of what you want to do with the platform. How much customer feedback do you want to get? And beyond the budget, think about the value that is going to be generated. Now, I know from my personal experience working at a large corporation that one single fix of a customer problem could be worth millions of dollars. Now, obviously, that's a huge number, and I was dealing with huge scale of services on this particular website I was working on. But your business is no different. When you fix a customer problem, how does that scale over the course of a year? If you generate more leads, how does that scale over the course of a year and turn into revenue for you? So that's really how you need to think about user testing. Budget is important. How much do you have to spend? But how much do you have to gain? That is really, really important. And when we're talking about employee experiences, how much do we have to save as well by being more efficient? So budgets big and small, you can use user testing, but please think about the value. And if you're unsure of what kind of value you can generate, reach out to user testing. There are people that can help you figure out what is the likely benefit of user testing. If I'm remembering correctly, there's a Forrester study that said on average, user testing customers were getting a return of about 650+% on their usage of the platform. That's going to be it for these myths busted. I thank you for joining me to go through all 10, actually 11 with our bonus one. That's going to be it for now, but I'll be back again soon. Until then, I will see you later.